Jetzt bei Taco Fashion 20% auf Jacken und Westen, aber nur für kurze Zeit. Sichere dir deine Lieblingsjacke oder Weste im Store oder online auf taco.com und spare 20%. Taco Fashion, zu günstig zum Weitersagen. Jetzt bei Taco Fashion 20% auf Jacken und Westen, aber nur für kurze Zeit. Sichere dir deine Lieblingsjacke oder Weste im Store oder online auf taco.com und spare 20%. Taco Fashion, zu günstig zum Weitersagen.
The Nigerian Economic Summit Group, in its role as connector, dialogue partner, watchdog, and intervener,
when you first start business, your target is to make your first million.
Seeks to change the narrative and trajectory of the Nigerian economy. Together with our partners, we're not just solving problems, but preventing them, because when advocacy succeeds, the nation transforms for the better. But advocacy is for the strong. It takes fact-based inputs, resilience, partnerships, courage, and a lot of heroes. So be our hero. Subscribe to our channel, listen to our messages, and engage with us. Together, we can transform Nigerian lives, communities, and businesses. Welcome to the NESG Radio. It's fantastic to be back on NESG Radio. My name is Yinka Inyolako. Let's talk tourism and hospitality. Tourism is one of the world's major economic sectors. The sector supports 1 in 10 jobs and provides livelihood for millions in both developing and developed economies. According to the WTO, tourism accounted for 7% of global trade in 2019. However, in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Tourism and hospitality is one of the sectors most affected by the pandemic, impacting economies, livelihoods, public services, and opportunities across the globe. The Nigerian tourism and hospitality sector was not left out by the resultant effects of the pandemic, even though the sector was yet to realize its full potential pre-pandemic. But enough of the gloom. My guest today is Ngozi Ngoka. She is a tourism and hospitality expert, and she's here to talk to us about the light at the end of the tunnel. Welcome, Ngozi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, Ngozi. Ngozi is the lead tourism and hospitality industry thematic group at the NESG. So let's go right into it, Ngozi. Let's start from the basics. What are the dimensions of the tourism and hospitality industry, in your opinion?
Well, thank you for that question, Yinka, and for inviting me to your station to talk about tourism. Tourism and hospitality are usually lumped together as one and the same, but in fact they are multifaceted industries which possess dynamic ecosystems of their own. It is true that there exists a sort of symbiotic relationship between the two industries, which explains the lumping together of the two to create one. However, with a little review, you will discover that each of them is broad enough to warrant an independent study of its own. That being said, for the purposes of this discussion and because of time constraints, we would introduce some of the areas which can be said to be the highest subsets of the tourism and hospitality sectors. There are 3 main subsectors of tourism and hospitality, which account for more than half of the output globally. So these are accommodation, travel, and food services. And in Nigeria, in the hospitality sector, food services accounts for about 60% of earnings, followed by accommodation and then tourist attractions. Of all tourist attractions in Nigeria, it may interest you to know that religious tourism is a huge income earner for the tourism and hospitality sector.
Really?
Yes, with 2 churches in Lagos making the list of top 10 tourist attractions in Lagos, according to TripAdvisor.
Wow, fantastic. Yes. Pray tell, what are those churches?
I would rather not say. For now, you have to come to the program on Thursday so that you hear more about all of these.
Fantastic.
Yes. Okay, so we'll take each of the sectors, and accommodation is the largest of the 3 subsectors and accounts for almost a fifth of travel and tourism related spending. In 2019, $300 billion was spent on traveler accommodations, and the value of the travel accommodation market was valued at over $600 billion before the pandemic. Travel is the second largest subsector and accounts for nearly 17% of tourism and hospitality related spending. Then we have the food services, which is the third largest subsector worldwide. It accounts for 16% of spending. But like I said earlier, in Nigeria, food services is the highest.
Right.
That's in terms of restaurants, fast food, and all of that. So in the whole of hospitality sector, the food services sector is the most
So you're trying to say we eat a lot?
Yes.
Oh, right.
The food industry is big business in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So it's no longer news that this sector that you've been talking about was hardest hit by the ongoing pandemic, because we cannot say the past pandemic because it's still ongoing. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the tourism and hospitality industry is recovering well? Do you think it is?
You're absolutely right, Inka, that tourism and hospitality was the hardest hit industry this past year because of the coronavirus pandemic. An unprecedented 61.6 million people lost their jobs. Wow. In the tourism and hospitality sector worldwide. And the sector has not fully recovered. And it may be a while before we return to pre-pandemic levels. The recovery process has been marred by the appearance of new variants, as you know, of the virus, which have caused countries which were reopening to shut down again. The Olympics that held in Tokyo, which is normally a world festival of sports, was restricted to just domestic spectators.
Yeah, the stands were empty.
Exactly. And this shows you the impact that the virus still has. There are no definite statistics available yet because the year is not yet over, but there seems to be some progress being made because of the availability of the vaccine. And I think that with the advent of vaccine passports, we may see an improvement in the industry soon. One area which has been massive, has seen massive progress, right, is in the area of domestic tourism. This is good news for us because as international travel has been restricted, travelers have been encouraged to explore destinations within their own countries and immediate environments in order to get the industry going again. Several countries have also implemented tourism revival plans in order to boost the recovery of the sector. Measures such as tax breaks and interest-free loans for tourism establishments have been proposed in order to help revive the industry, something that the Nigerian government has to really seriously look into because the countries that are reviving have implemented these policies to help their tourism and hospitality sector survive.
So what you're saying is that it's something we need to look at in the immediate.
I don't think we've done enough as a country to help the sector. And again, this is one of the things that we're going to be discussing on Thursday.
Talking about what we'll be discussing on Thursday, the build-up is that the development of the tourism industry in Nigeria cannot be achieved without the collective efforts of an investment commitment of public and private partnership.
Absolutely.
And this, it's not only about government and even the private sector. You even need the efforts of local communities, state government. It's a collective thing.
Yes.
Right? And the event you've been talking about on Thursday, coming up on Thursday, is themed Repositioning Nigeria's tourism and hospitality sectors for sustainable growth and profitability. How significant is this dialogue session to the industry?
Well, I think that the Focus Group Forum, which comes up on Thursday the 19th of August, is going to be the most significant event in the tourism and hospitality sector since the pandemic.
Fantastic.
We believe that the event is an important stepping stone for laying the groundwork in order to establish tourism and hospitality as a key contributor to economic growth and job creation in Nigeria. Our objectives for the event include, to ignite discussions about the potentials of tourism and hospitality for the Nigerian economy, to bring awareness to the challenges currently plaguing the sectors in Nigeria and how stakeholders can help in tackling and resolving these issues. And one of the things we'll be talking about would be how governments can help the industry to grow by giving the sector more incentives than we have now.
Right.
We'll also present a roadmap. I'll be presenting the roadmap that would capture the activities of the whole tourism and hospitality sector's ecosystem and think about the policies and reforms that are needed to galvanize the ecosystem for optimal profitability. We will highlight all the linkages and all the sectors that have that to purposefully work together to achieve this. So I think that the most important objective of this event is to bring together all the stakeholders under one forum so that ideas can be shared between them and to ensure that everyone is on the same page and working together towards a common goal, which is to reposition the tourism and hospitality sectors in Nigeria for sustainable growth and profitability. I believe that this last point emphasizes the importance of this event, as nothing can be achieved if we are not all rowing in the same direction and trying to achieve the same thing.
Oh, you're spot on, and I'm looking forward to it. It looks like a massive event, right? Yes. Because when you say breaking down all of these things, that would be, from what time to what time on?
It would be from 8:45,
right?
And it a.m. and it will end at 4. We have at 4 p.m. We have 4 sessions, so each session will discuss different topics.
Oh, this is awesome. So to register, please visit www.nesgroup.org/events. Or if you missed this by chance because you're listening to this podcast much after the event, please visit our YouTube channel, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and you'll be able to watch back these sessions and know all what Ngozi has been talking about.
But I don't encourage anybody to miss it, though, because during the session we are going to have some interactive activities which will be very useful, and it's always better if you hear everything firsthand.
Fantastic. You talked a lot about what government needs to do, and which is what we talk about in every sector in Nigeria. To what extent has the private sector been involved in the tourism and hospitality industry in Nigeria? Should we be talking about a full deregulation of the sector as done in other economic sectors? What does this portend for the Nigerian economy?
The first part of your question, I think that, everybody knows that the tourism and hospitality sectors in Nigeria have basically evolved without much planning or input from government. So the fact that the WTTC reports that the sector contributes about 4.4% to Nigeria's GDP is food for thought. I think about what could happen if we had an updated tourism policy and an intentional planning of the tourism and hospitality sectors.
Right.
Private sector operators in the industry are plagued with issues such as inadequate infrastructure. Think of hotels who must also invest in generators and buy diesel regularly.
Right.
Multiple taxation, insecurity, and all sorts of bureaucracy. These are just some of the issues, and it is a testament to the industrious nature of Nigerians that the sectors contribute so much to the GDP in spite of the unfriendly environment that practitioners operate in. There are no federal agencies that govern or regulate the sectors, and there are few bills by different agencies of both government and the private sector at different stages of passage at the National Assembly, all seeking to control and regulate the sector. And it's possibly because there's no clarity about which agency controls what, due to the lack of clarity about the role of federal and state governments with regards to the tourism and hospitality sectors in the Nigerian Constitution. So I must point out, though, that the best practice in many countries that have gotten it right is for the national government to be responsible for the promotion and marketing of the country for tourism, For example, in the United States of America, the Travel Promotion Act of 2009 was passed to create the Corporation for Travel Promotion, and the provision of an enabling environment for the sectors to operate, such as tourism-friendly visa policies, provision of adequate security architecture, infrastructure, planning and development, and favorable financial incentives. In the UK, for instance, the government develops policy which helps the industry to thrive, and they are also involved in the promotion of the country through their agency Visit Britain. All other aspects of tourism are left for the regional governments and private sector to handle. In an era where resources are tight, it is pertinent for the government to devolve a lot of things to the regional governments and the private sector to handle. This would allow the federal government to save money for use in other areas, like major, planning of security and stuff like that.
Right.
And government should also provide a platform to interact with tourism and hospitality associations in order to ensure that best standards are met, and industry associations should be given the necessary support to regulate their members. I don't believe there should be a total deregulation, to answer your second question, but there should be a shared, well-defined relationship between the public and private sectors for best results.
That's fantastic. And so you're saying that there's a role that a revitalized tourism policy and its implementation, and there's a role that it has to play to achieve this sustainable growth and profitability in the tourism industry.
Yes, absolutely, because we do have a tourism policy for the country which is not being implemented. We've had it since 2006, and it's not being implemented, and it's a fantastic document, I think, because I've read it and we've analyzed it. It just needs a little current. It needs to be updated.
Updating.
Yes, but if we implement those policies, I think that the tourism industry would thrive better.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you for your time, Ngozi. Thank you for being on NESG Radio today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Ngozi Ngoka, Lead Tourism and Hospitality Industry Thematic Group at the NESG. Dialogue with Ngozi and other stakeholders at the event themed Repositioning Nigeria's Tourism and Hospitality Sectors for Sustainable Growth and Profitability. Visit our website at www.nesgroup.org/events or subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel, Just search Nigerian Economic Summit Group. For more podcasts, please subscribe. My name is Yinka Nyolako. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to our content today. Remember to subscribe to the NESG Radio. Follow us across all social media channels and visit our website www.nesgroup.org/NESG Radio. NESG in the national interest.
Jetzt bei Taco Fashion 20% auf Jacken und Westen, aber nur für kurze Zeit. Sichere dir deine Lieblingsjacke oder Weste im Store oder online auf taco.com und spare 20%. Taco Fashion, zu günstig zum Weitersagen.